humans are wonderful creatures, but they can focus on seven things plus or minus two. And so some of the most successful human traders have become experts at something. They probably have three primary techniques and then dozens of variations on a theme for that technique. But the practical reality for them is they look at a chart and they're saying, is that my favorite trade? Is that my favorite trade? Which of those is better? Because the bias is to trade, and the bias is to trade something you're good at. With computers, you eliminate that bias to trade. You can set up systems to monitor hundreds or thousands or millions of possibilities and to evaluate them fairly and objectively against each other to say, which of these things has the highest opportunity, and whichever that is it above the threshold to deploy money? And if not, I don't care, because I'm scanning all my opportunities. For a human to get good at something, Malcolm Gladwell says that it takes 10,000 hours of constant work or focused work in order to become an expert. And I've read a bunch of stuff that says that's not really true, or it's different for different people. But the concept is the same. There's somebody who's interested in something, somebody who really starts to make progress, and then there's a step into mastery. But a computer can now do 10,000 hours worth of human experience in the time it took me to just talk about it. And so many things that work in nature work with computers. If bacteria is fighting a virus, oftentimes millions of these bacteria attack the cell wall, and when one finally gets through, they win. You can think about the same thing in fertilizing an egg. Millions and millions of sperm try to penetrate the wall, and then ultimately one wins. In battles in ancient times, you had infantry and cavalry storming the walls. And now in cybersecurity, you have denial of service attacks. The same strategies work in different places. You now hear about computers learning to beat a video game in a few hours, or learning how to beat a world champion at Go in several days. And we're just at the tipping point. This is going to get better and better. When somebody says to me, when are computers going to be good enough to, in almost anything, beat the stock market or develop new drugs or extend lifespans, they're already that good. And they're that good with this state of hardware and this state of human. When I first got out of school, almost nobody used a computer. It was in the mid to late 80s, and professionals did not type. I still remember when like Lotus 1-2-3 was cool, and my dad brought it home. And I was like, what are you going to do with it? He's like, I have no idea, but everybody says this is so cool. And it's interesting because I think that's what AI is becoming right now. Everybody thinks that AI is so cool, but they don't really know what it's going to do. It's just going to make everything better. But there's so many different ways that it could make something better that I worry that too many companies are going to take a step to the right trying this and a step to the left trying that, and then they're going to try this technique and try that technique, but they didn't make any real progress. The challenge with AI is you have to define the problem the right way in order to find a solution for it. So businesses have had considerable challenge finding a sustainable competitive advantage because they're trying to automate or use technology for very repetitive things. And as soon as they get it right, they get complacent because it's like, oh, thank God I got that right. But all they're doing is automating what everybody else is doing. And so it reduces the cost of humans, but it doesn't necessarily increase their capabilities. And yet, if they used massive computing power to process the same data in the same process, the fact that they're doing it broader, wider, deeper, really could create a competitive advantage because you could use the results differently. And it's really about doing something differently. When we use technology in trading and we create a trading system that can buy and sell autonomously, that technique works until it doesn't. And so many times you hope you find the holy grail, something that's going to work longer than other things. But it's not practical to believe you're going to do that because markets are mostly random. There's patterns, but the order of the patterns is random to you. And that's because there's so many different market participants and you don't know who's going to be controlling the market at any point in time. It could be a government, it could be a giant hedge fund, it could be a giant mutual fund unloading something. It doesn't matter what causes it. You just have to be able to recognize what's happening and respond. So the practical reality for a trader is that you have to have a broad enough range of techniques that even though you don't expect that technique to work forever, you hope you have enough of them that something is always working. And massive computing power lets you create more techniques, it lets you monitor more techniques, and it lets you execute or move money into the techniques that are working better than other people. That is a sustainable competitive advantage. So much of business is recognizing here's where I am and here's where I want to go. How am I going to get there? And with leaders or with people who are working tactically in the business, they often aren't thinking about that's my mission, what's my strategy. They're focused on the tactics. And this is a game-changing technology. This is exponential technology. It's not just how am I going to take that best next step, but what outcome am I going to commit to, and then how are we going to get there? When we first started using these technologies to trade, I was focused on trading better, and quickly it became on trading safety. But I now look at this as a tool for enhanced decision making. And as soon as you understand that we're getting better and better at making decision making in so many different forms and fashion, we start to use the tool in different ways, which gives us different feedback, which helps us make finer distinctions, and wisdom comes from finer distinctions. And so it's iterative and recursive, but evolutionary, and frankly, it's extraordinarily exciting.